So welcome back to today's lab. Today I'm going to look at working through items 1 through to 8, and then if you want to continue on working on your own, you can do so with items 9 through to 12. So to start off, I've just gone and grabbed the files from Blackboard and I've downloaded them and saved them to my home folder in Sequin. I've set up a new folder for Lab 2. You'll notice that for the class account, we have an account.h and an account.cpp. The .h file is used to declare what an account is. Basically, we go through and we state what any of the functions are going to be, if they're going to be publicly accessible or if they're going to be private. Any private member variables will also be declared down here. So this is more just a declaration, and this is also where we keep all of our comments regarding the account. Over in accounts.cpp, this is our implementation. This is where we add some meat to the functions. We actually state what's going to happen. We add the code. And usually we need to include the account.h so that it knows that this file matches this declaration here. So the first thing we need to include is a macro guard. The macro guard is a note for the compiler just to say that if this hasn't been defined, then we're going to define it, and we're going to wrap our class in this statement, and then we're going to put a little end if down here so that the compiler knows that this is the end of the statement. Essentially what that does is that just makes it so that this class is only ever going to be defined once and compiled once. It's used to speed up the process of compilation. You don't need to include the macro guard in the account.cpp, it only goes into the .h file. Okay, so the next thing we need to add is a namespace. A namespace is simply, it's like a declarative region. We just declare it and then it's going to provide a scope for any of the identifiers inside it. In doing this, we can prevent any conflicts, naming conflicts that might occur, or we can at least guard against them. All you have to do is simply type in what the namespace is, and then you just have to encapsulate everything that is inside the namespace. Now to encapsulate, you're just adding the curly brackets here. We add that to account.h, but we also go and add it to account.cpp. We make sure that everything is within that namespace. And then over in bank.cpp, this is where our main function is. We also make sure that we state that we are using that namespace. So for the next task, we're just going to compile it using a makefile, and that's pretty much the same as what we did last week. I've got a makefile just here. I've adjusted it for this week's problem by putting in the new sources, and I'm using the bank.cpp and the account.cpp. I don't need to include account.h, and the reason why is because if you look at the account.cpp file, you'll see here I have a note for the compiler that's already saying it includes account.h, and that's the account.h file here. So therefore, I don't need to give that instruction here while I'm in the makefile. I've also stated what the executable is, which is going to be bank. So we'll have a go at compiling that. We'll just fire up a new Sequin terminal, and I'll just move that, there we go, out of the way. And we're going to go into our new folder and just list the contents to make sure we're there. And now we're going to try and make it. And there's errors, and you can always check the first error that it gives you. So this is saying that it's in bank.cpp at line 16, column 13. So if I have a look over here, bank.cpp at line 16, here we go. So okay, when it gets to here, it's like, okay, well, you're declaring this guy, but you're not actually making him. So what I might do is just quickly make an account on the stack. Now remember, the stack is the, well, it's good memory, it's always there, it's always available, it's quick access. but it's small. So we're not always going to want to put things in that stack. We're going to want to learn how to put things on the heap. We'll look at that a bit later, but right now, just to get this going, we'll make a new account and we'll put it on the stack. And you can tell it's going on the stack because we are not using the keyword new. We are simply making an account. So let's have a look at how this compiles now. Okay, great, that's compiled. So for task number 5, the way to complete that is to put the object onto the heap. The heap is different to the stack in that it's abundant, there's tons of it. It's pretty much limited only by the limits of your system. However, when we're declaring and using objects on the heap, we need to use some different syntax around it. So we'll have a look at that. So this is me creating an object on the heap. The first thing I do is I make a pointer for the account type object. So that's that there. You can tell it's a pointer because it's got the little asterisk next to it. This is the name of my pointer. And then over here, this is my new account and that is being created on the heap. You know it's going onto the heap because of the keyword new. So just for comparison, when we're doing something on the stack, it's just like this. And then when we're doing something on the heap, it'll generally look something a bit more like this. Now, when it comes to accessing information from this account, it's going to be a little bit different because we are using the pointer. We're going to use a binary arrow operator now rather than our dot operator. So just to show you, this is accessing account information and getting to an account function using the dot operator, which is what you would use for anything on the stack. And this is doing it with our pointer, and we're using the binary operator, and then we're calling the function. The last thing I've done is I've made sure that I'm using a default argument. So over here, you'll see that my account CPP wants to be initialized with an actual value. Here, I've decided not to include it, but I don't have a default constructor. What I've done instead is in the declaration, I've given it an initial value equals 0. And what that does is it acts kind of like a default constructor so that if no argument is given, it will just ensure that that is set to 0. Okay, so tried to get through a few things there. Let's make this and see how it goes. So that's compiled. And now we just need to run it. And you can see the initial balance now is 0. And then it's just running exactly the same as it was before. However, I've just used the heap object instead. So for this example, I've put the account back onto this stack. It's just going to be easier at this stage if we're copying and aliasing from the stack. When we make a copy, the main thing to watch out for is the syntax here. Basically what we're saying is we want an account. We're going to give it our name that we'll be calling it, and then we're setting a target account. Essentially what we're going to do is make a copy of that target and store it as our account copy. When we're aliasing, it's only a small difference in that we've got the ampersand here. What that does is that states that I want an account memory location. So it's not a new account, it's a memory location. Then what we're going to do, we're going to take our target account and we're going to take the memory location of this guy and we're going to store it here as the account alias. In both cases, we're going to do a small mutation by depositing $100. And then we're just going to do some printouts just to check that the balances in the accounts are either different in the case of copy or the same in the case of alias. Okay, so I've already compiled it, so we'll just give that a quick run just to show you how it's going. So you can see in the case of account copy, when we add the $100 to it, my account and account copy end up with differing amounts. However, in the case of alias, when we add the $100, both my account and account alias show that they've got $110, and they've both, essentially it's the one account that has been changed. So that's the end of today's video presentation. You should be able to have a good crack at all these exercises here. What I would suggest is going through to the more advanced ones as well and have a go at some of the extension questions. You're probably in a good place to do that now.